All right, we're getting this thing rolling. We are going to go pretty quick today. Not going to sit around too much. But today we're going to be talking about fear of failure. So, as you tune in, whether you're here live or whether you're tuning into the replay, make sure that you're leaving me a comment to let me know that you're here, let me know that you're listening. As the podcast goes on, make sure that you are sending me a message with anything that you're taking away, sharing this with a teammate, with a friend, with a coach, with somebody who will benefit from it. If you've been here before, you know the drill. You know why we're here. We are here to help athletes. We are here to help athletes reach new levels in their athletic careers. And we do that through you. We do that through those listening, which I see my brother is listening right now. Hello, Stefan. But the goal is to help athletes reach new levels of themselves in their sport, reach new levels of themselves as human beings, and in turn, be able to continue to actually make their dreams for their sports come true. So we're going to get into it pretty quickly here. We're going to be talking about fear of failure, and let's get rolling so that I can get back to my wonderful brother that's sitting on my couch right now listening to me. And let's get rolling in 3, 2, 1. Welcome everybody to another episode of the Elite Development Podcast, the number one show for athletes looking to gain an edge on their opponents and build their dream careers in sport. I'm your host, Kenny Dusseault, and today we are going to be talking about fear of failure. So first off, we're going to be talking about where fear of failure comes from, and then some things and some mental reframes that you can use to not only start working through it, but actually fully get past it. One of the biggest things that I see is that, athletes are so concerned with failing that they end up doing more damage to themselves because they're so focused on winning. They end up doing more damage than they do good, which sounds counterintuitive because you'd think the more they focus on winning, the more likely they are to win. But today we're going to talk a little bit about how this can be extremely detrimental to you and then what you can do to get around it. So first off, where does fear of failure come from? Why are people afraid to fail? So a lot of the time when I speak with athletes, the impressions I get from them, and I know even in my own life, both through sport and through business over the last number of years, whenever I've felt that self-doubt creep in or that fear of failure or, just being concerned about any of these kinds of things, one of the biggest ones for me was fear of not being good enough, fear of putting in all this time, putting in all this effort, putting in all this work and not getting the result I was looking for anyway, doing all the work and still coming up short. One thing I see very commonly with athletes as well is they just feel pressure to win. In a lot of big moments, athletes are coming into, whether it's big fights where they know bigger promotions are watching, whether it's, I've spoken to a lot of hockey scouts on this show in previous episodes, and they talk about going to scout younger athletes and having them just absolutely implode on the ice because they're so worried about performing for the scouts that they just get in their heads and mess everything up. And one of the other big ones that I see in a lot of athletes is uncertainty in their preparation. So we're going to talk a little bit about all three of these and then talk to a little bit of mindset reframes that you can use to help yourself work through that fear of failure and continue to actually press forward in your career. So first off, let's talk about feeling like you're not good enough. A lot of the time, this is something that many athletes struggle with, but it's fully in their heads. Athletes that are performing really well, athletes that are getting good results that still feel like they need to be further, they need to do more, they need, better results, they're not doing enough. And in turn, they start almost overworking themselves in training. They start doing too much because they feel like the more they do, the better result they're going to get, which if you've listened to this show before, is not the case. So when you feel like you're not good enough, the first thing I want to ask you is why. So if you're sitting here right now and you feel like, I'm not doing enough, I haven't gotten far enough, I'm not doing well enough, ask yourself that question. Ask yourself why. Why do you feel like you're not far enough along? Why do you feel like you're not doing enough? Why do you feel like you should be at higher levels than you are? And when people ask themselves that question, oftentimes they can't answer it. Oftentimes they feel like, they're not good enough, and either they can't answer it or their answer is fully external, Well, my coach expects more from me. Well, I know this guy that I used to train with and he's further than I am, something like that. So the first thing I want to touch on with that is anything that you cannot control is not worth getting this kind of feeling about, is not worth getting this kind of anxiety about. If you can't control it, you need to learn to let it go. If you can't control it, you need to learn to let it go. Why? Because the fact that, that guy you used to train with is further along than you are right now has nothing to do with you. That doesn't mean that you're not doing well. That doesn't mean that you're not making progress. That means that that guy made a little bit more or went a little bit faster. But if you look at that and you say, that means I'm not good enough, that means I'm not far enough, that means I'm not doing well enough, and you spend your time focused on that, guess what you're not focused on? You're not focused on performing. You're not focused on doing the things you need to do that are actually going to get you to the next level. You're not focused on what those people that have that authority to bring you to the next level want to see. So as a result, all that time that you're worried about, that guy you used to train with, or, you're worried about your coach's expectation, or you're worried about this or that, you're not focused on the thing that's actually going to get you the goal you have for your career. So if you can reframe that mentality, if you can start looking at it and saying, instead of, I'm not doing well enough, or instead of I'm not far enough, or this guy's further than I am, that guy's further than I am, whatever it is that's bugging you inside, start reframing your mentality and put all of that energy into doing more. Put all of that energy into making sure that the next time that opportunity comes up, you are there to claim it and it doesn't go to somebody else. Because if you can put your energy into that place, now you're going to make absolutely certain that you don't get overlooked. You're going to make absolutely certain that when that opportunity comes up, you are the one that's there to take it. But if you spend your time worrying about where you're at versus where you want to be, there are other athletes out there spending their time worrying on being in the right place at the right time and taking that opportunity from you. So it's up to you where you spend your energy. And if you put it in the right place, you're going to put yourself in a position where you're going to be more successful. So now that pressure to win, because that's the other big one we were talking about here, that pressure to win. And so a lot of athletes, again, fear failure because they feel pressure to win, whether that's from coaches, whether that's from teammates, whether that's from understanding that it's a big opportunity ahead. They feel all this pressure because they know, certain people are watching that could give them a sponsorship. Certain people are watching that could, write their ticket to a bigger promotion. They know that this is a big opportunity. So they get so much pressure in their mind that they have to win no matter what, that they get into their head. They don't perform the way they know they can. And in turn, they end up losing out on that big opportunity. So when you are feeling that, if you've ever been in that position, you know how tough it is. You know that it's tough when you're sitting in that position where there's a lot of pressure on you and you want to win. You know that something great could happen if you win, and then you don't live up to the task. So when you're facing that pressure, when you're facing that position, what I want you to remember is that this performance that you have coming up that has that big opportunity, this performance that you have coming up that you could, catapult to the next level, whatever it is, that big opportunity that's getting in your head, that's making you feel that pressure, it is no different than any other time that you've performed. It is no different than any other time you've performed because you still need to do the same thing. Yeah, there might be consequences of the performance going well or poorly, but again, that is not something you can control. You can't control what happens afterwards. What you can control is what happens in that 15 minutes, in that 9 minutes, in that 25 minutes, whatever it is, the length that you are actually fighting. So instead of looking at that and saying, oh, I absolutely have to win. Oh, I absolutely have to win, and getting in your head and getting overwhelmed and putting yourself in bad positions, all you need to focus on is performing the same way as you do when there's no one in the arena, the same way as you do when there's nothing at stake. All you need to focus on is performing. And if you can cut out the noise of the crowd, cut out the eyes are on you, cut out everything external that you can't control, and focus simply on the performance, you are going to put yourself in a better position to succeed. because now you're just in the gym by yourself again. Now you're just in sparring, practicing with a teammate, except obviously you're trying to actually take this guy's head off instead of what you're doing with your teammate. But do you get what I mean? Do you understand what I'm saying here? That if you are able to cut the noise out, if you are able to get rid of all of that external stuff, you can put yourself in a better and better position to succeed. But where athletes mess themselves up is that big moment comes up and they go, this has to be the performance of a lifetime. It's like, but you're in that position because you've performed well. So instead of looking at that and thinking, I need to do something entirely different because this is this huge opportunity, look at that and say, everything I've done up to this point has led me to this opportunity. So if I keep doing what I'm doing, but do it better, just like I have in every other competition I've been in, that's going to lead to me being successful. That's going to lead to me making the most of this opportunity. So all I'm going to focus on is making sure that I am performing to the best of my abilities each and every time. That's it. And if you can reframe your mind like that, now you can put yourself in a position that all the external is cut and you can focus on performing. You can focus on the thing that is actually going to get you the goal you have for your career. Now, the third thing was uncertainty in preparation. If you aren't certain that you have prepared to the best of your abilities, then you're going to be in a position where you're not sure how you're going to perform. So if you're uncertain of how you've prepared coming into competition, you're going to be unsure of how you're going to perform. So make sure that you leave no doubt in your preparation. And I've spoken a lot about this on this podcast as well. You know, people think that the more work I do, the better I'm going to prepare. So they just grind and grind and grind and grind and grind. And then what happens? They come into the performance physically beaten down, injuries. They come in with, you know, a bunch of other issues. They have all of these, you know, issues as they come in to perform. And now they're trying to perform at their best, but their body won't allow it. So if you truly want to be confident in the way you perform, you have to have intention behind everything you're doing. If you truly want to be confident in the way you're performing, you have to have intention behind everything you're doing. So what do I mean when I say that? When you go into a training session, instead of looking at it and saying, okay, I'm checking the box, I trained tonight, ask yourself, what are you trying to improve? What skill are you going to improve within this hour and a half, 2 hour session? When you come into your strength and conditioning work, what is the focus of the session? What are you actually working on improving coming into that session? Because if you don't have an answer to that, how are you supposed to feel confident in 4, 6, 8 weeks when you're coming into the fight? So every session you do has to have an intention. With every athlete I work with, every one of the sessions we have has a purpose. Every one of the sessions we have is designed in order to affect a certain physical quality that is going to translate to performance when that athlete steps into the ring or the cage. So when you are doing yours, what are you not sure of? What areas do you feel like are being neglected? What are you doing that isn't actually translating to the sport? What are you not doing enough of that you need to be doing more of? If you can answer these questions and you can put together a better program, now you're going to be more certain of yourself when you're stepping into that last week because you know you did the work. You know you put the time in, but not just did the work and put the time in, put the time into the right shit. And that's the thing that so many of you are overlooking. You think because I trained 20 hours this week, it means I got better. But if you're doing the wrong things, it's not going to help you improve. If you're just going in and checking the box to say, I was at the gym for 2 hours today, great, cool. I could be there for 30 minutes with a structured program and do more in that 30 minutes than you did in that 2 hours. But if you actually put together a solid plan based off of what you need to improve coming into your next competition, you're going to make more improvements. You're going to feel those improvements day to day to day. And in turn, you're going to be putting yourself in a better position to be successful. So if you've been dealing with fear of failure, if you find you come into competitions and you're unsure of yourself, you find you come into competitions and you start doubting yourself. You find you come into competitions and you're unsure of, am I physically going to be able to take what I'm about to get into? Make sure that you're thinking about these 3 points. Fear of not being good enough, doing all this work and still coming up short, pressure to win, facing big opportunities and feel like you have to win. And number 3, uncertainty in preparation. And if you can really think about where you're at with those 3 points, you're going to be able to address what the problem is. And in turn, make sure that you're fixing that issue, whether that's with mindset rituals, focusing on reframing your mind to understand that the only things you need to think about are the things that you can control and the things you can actually have an effect on, or improvement in your preparation, making sure that you're actually spending your time in the right areas, leading to better results in the sport, and in turn, allowing you to be more successful when the competition comes around. So guys, that was it. That was all. I appreciate you all taking the time to tune in, those who are here live. If you are here on the replay or on the podcast, wherever it is you're finding it, make sure that you're letting me know. I always love those kind words that I get from so many of you that have tuned into the show, that have gotten some good value from it. And honestly, every time it just makes my day. So if you've gotten some value from the show, my one ask of you, again, is that you share it with a friend, share it with a teammate, share it with somebody that you know is going to benefit from this message. The goal of this company, the goal of this podcast, the goal of everything we do here is to help athletes reach higher level versions of themselves. And we do that through word of mouth. We do that through you guys sharing this around as you listen to it. So again, I thank you all in advance, those who have tuned in and those who are sharing the show around. I truly do appreciate it. So I hope you all have a fantastic rest of your day, and we'll talk to you again soon.